Just one thing I hope never to see come back in style because of the vintage fashion wave is the fitteds from the early 2000s, how they were worn any which way on your head except fully on your head. How's it going, everybody? George here from GP Lifestyle, helping you guys dress better, look better, and ultimately be better through style, tutorial, and tips videos like this. And in today's video, I'll be going over 5 fashion trends that I personally think will never go out of style. Without further delay, let's jump into it. Number 1 is minimalism, and I've been a big fan of minimalist fashion for the past couple of years because I like the philosophy of breaking it down to your bare essentials. Clothing that you need and clothing that's going to go with the most amount of outfits and work for the most amount of guys out there. And I really am a big fan of this, and I think it's a great fashion choice for guys who want to dress well every single day but don't constantly want to be keeping up to date with newest fashion trends and looking super trendy. I think this is a very intelligent way to dress. You're keeping things simple, straightforward, and to the point. And obviously you're going to get casual alternatives, more dapper wear alternatives, and something along the middle, something like your smart casual. I think this is honestly a great starting point for getting into fashion as well as sticking to it, because if you found something that works for you, might as well keep doing it. And if you have versatile color palettes, versatile clothing pieces, and everything in your wardrobe goes with anything, there's no reason why it shouldn't go out of style when you're really being super foundational. Number 2 is accessorizing. Now, we may debate whether or not accessorizing is a fashion trend, but I personally think this is something that's here to stay. Jewelry and guys wearing accessories has gotten a lot more popular and mainstream over the past couple of years, and I think this is here to stay for the biggest reason is personalization. A lot of times when you're trying to get into fashion and looking up outfits online on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, a lot of them can feel the same and just like you're copying somebody else. That's a great starting point, don't get me wrong. That's a lot of what my content is. But accessorizing is definitely one lane that you can go into where you can make every outfit your own by personalizing how you accessorize. I don't think I'm ever going to see 2 guys have the same accessory pairs, the same kind of chains, rings, bracelets, watches on, and I think this is a great way that you can obviously put in your personality into a lot of different outfits that you're wearing, and it's definitely here to stay because you sort of create your own style through this. It can again be something super minimal, something trendy, or something classic, like when it comes to traditional jewelry. I think that's here to stay. Number 3 is going to sound like a bit of a hot take, but it is vintage clothing. Now, I was watching Frugal Aesthetic a couple of months ago just to refresh my knowledge on the whole vintage trend and wave, and he said something that really stuck with me, that vintage fashion is the past, present, and future of fashion. And I couldn't agree more because fashion trends are cyclical. Stuff that wasn't popular 10 years ago is going to be popular in the next 10 years. You already see the past couple of years with people wearing retro stuff from the 90s and extending it into this decade as well, and now having that Y2K and early 2000s aspect as well. There's definitely always going to be what people are wearing this decade is going to come back 2 decades from now. I just hope never to see again those fitteds from the early 2000s on how they were worn on your head each way but properly on your head. So whatever fashion trends we see in the next decade or the next couple of years, we're probably going to see them again later in life, which is why it's one of these permanent fashion trends because of how cyclical fashion trends are. Number 4 is dapper wear. Now, a lot of people may not consider dapper wear to be a fashion trend, but it's definitely become popular in some variants of it, like smart casual and some of the newer high fashion takes on suits and stuff. And I personally think this is always here to stay because your business formal, your business casual, in the professional world, that's the dress code, that's the fashion, that's their aesthetic, and that's something that's always going to be here to stay. But it doesn't have to be that plain, boring, and professional. There's a lot of designer brands out there that do their own hot take on blazers, overcoats, smart jackets, and you can obviously incorporate these pieces into any style that you have, and they'll always be relevant. I don't think I'll ever see an overcoat go out of style or a single or double-breasted jacket go out of style, but having something that's a little more asymmetric, you can be trendier but still keep those traditional roots and dapper wear is always going to be here to stay. Number 5 is athleisure. Now, we can argue whether athleisure has peaked in terms of its mass appeal over the past couple of years, but I definitely think this is here to stay just because it's comfortable. Comfy clothing that's slightly color blocked is always going to be a no-brainer for people who want to be comfortable and still put on a mildly fashionable outfit. And as well, when it comes to athleisure, obviously the functionality of athletics is obviously going to be a big deal and why it sticks around, because people are always going to be athletic. They're always going to have to buy athletic clothing that really are for performance, but also it's going to tie into the vintage stuff as well when it comes to like sports team rugby shirts, tennis shoes, tennis uniforms, that it takes a whole nother aspect when it comes to athleisure that you may not have thought about right away. Like how many people you see with like vintage Harvard crewneck sweaters when those were meant for athletics back in the day, but now people are wearing it for their vintage fashion. And who's to say with modern athleisure how it's going that it may potentially be some form of it being somewhat vintage in the next few decades. I know it may seem stupid now that like somebody's wearing Gymshark this decade and then 2 decades from now it's considered like vintage athleisure wear, but it's definitely something to think about. There you guys have it. Those are 5 fashion trends that I personally think will never go out of style. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and if you watch this far into the video, way more serious about dressing better, looking better, and ultimately being better. So drop this video a like and subscribe, and be sure to check out some of my other videos on screen right now. Peace.